Hello from Cork, Ireland. My name is Rob Sullivan. I'm a communications specialist and a science outreach officer.
And I'm Danielle Wilcox, resident astronomer and telescope operator, and today we're joining you from Munster Technological University's Black Rock Castle Observatory.
And we're going to speak to you briefly about what we learned during the coronavirus pandemic about how to continue communicating astronomy, but more importantly, what those lessons have taught us about ensuring equity of access to science education going forward.
So obviously the coronavirus pandemic has proved very challenging for those of us in the science communication space, particularly with astronomy, because we can no longer use shared telescopes, we can't funnel people into closed planetaria, so it's undeniably a burden. But it's also an opportunity for experimentation. We have long suspected that we could come up with ways to address inequity that would also prove useful to a situation such as coronavirus and teaching in remote environments. Some of the areas that we particularly want to focus on are addressing geographical inequity, financial, infrastructural, and the demographics that can actually access what we're offering. A good way to do that is to look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals to help you decide what it is you want to deliver and how you envision your program taking shape. So we've long suspected that remote delivery could be as beneficial as face-to-face delivery in most regards. And it has the added benefits of addressing geographical inequity because it's not urban focused. It addresses infrastructural equity because you're no longer constrained by the space and time constraints of venues. It addresses a lot of financial inequity because there's a lower cost to entry when you don't have the higher costs of running the events in the first place. And it helps address demographic issues because we have great control over where we deliver the program and also the methods of delivery that we choose. We can pick the media that suit the audiences that we wish to target. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that here at MTU Black Rock Castle Observatory, we are funded by Science Foundation Ireland and Zero Ireland, so we do have the financial support needed to experiment and come up with solutions to this problem. We were very lucky in that both SFI and Zero gave us the freedom needed to amend our contract within the context of COVID, and our initial efforts were hit and miss. But we learned by experimentation, which meant we were ready for Space Week. Now, an important thing to note about Space Week is the coronavirus pandemic started having impacts in Ireland around the end of March. So all of the major STEM weeks had finished. So it was the first STEM week to be planned and delivered entirely within the context of coronavirus. As a result of the planning and delivery within the context of COVID-19, Space Week effectively became a case study in how to deliver a STEM week during the pandemic. We had ambitious targets of reaching 400 events and 22,000 people. We decided not to revise those targets, and we hoped we might even exceed them. And we thought that there was the potential for this accessibility drive to prove to be a win-win situation, that we would help reach these so-called STEM cold regions, and in so doing also we would boost the number of events and audience members that we would reach. This proved to be the case. We managed to run 600 events and reach 87,555 people, which is one of the best outcomes in the world. Now, what we found was the key to running such a successful program was to offer tiered engagement. So offer a variety of engagement options to harness the widest possible audience. This involves offering asynchronous options. So what we did with libraries is we helped them to collate their existing resources. We had home resources that people could access in their own time and, engage with their children. And teachers were given a lesson plan that allowed them to teach at their own time and pace. We had some partially asynchronous activities such as our Astro Challenges, which encourage people to do some research ahead of time and then join everybody in looking into the night sky at the same time to see if they could find certain objects, constellations, planets, etc. We had completely synchronous activities such as our live workshops and remote astronomy sessions using Stellarium. And we also had a blended approach such as our Live Space Careers Roadshows, which did take place live but also allowed people to submit questions ahead of time and then watch the roadshows later to see how the astronaut or engineer or whatever other space professional we had on board addressed their queries. Now, there are some key things that we found you need to keep in mind while planning. First off, analyze the past data if it's available to you. Figure out where your resources are most needed. We've found, for instance, with us that urban areas largely take care of themselves, so it made more sense to allocate resources to the so-called STEM cold regions. Develop programs with stakeholder input. Design with, not for. We find out what their needs are, and then our programs are made stronger by delivering what they need. We can also try to feed programs into each other to maintain that momentum of engagement. So, for instance, our Astro Challenges would always wrap up by reminding people that there is another opportunity available to them to perhaps take part in an astrophotography competition we might be running, or to remind people of an event that will be happening later in the week. One of the most engaging programs that we do have is the Zero Space Goes to School program, and I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Danielle, who's more familiar with that, to give you a breakdown on that particular project.
The Zero Space Goes to School program is one of our most popular and impactful programs. It pairs space industry professionals with classrooms via video conference link. This brings students in direct contact with people working in space and gives them the opportunity to ask questions in real time. It's also an excellent way for students to see the diversity of space career options available to them. More importantly, it shows them the diversity of faces. We find it important that working in space is an option for people from all different backgrounds. The feedback from this program has been extremely positive over the years. We've had emails from school principals and teachers letting us know just how much of an impact these interactions have had on their students. We frequently find that teachers have students do space projects based on talks given by the speakers. One of our favorite stories is that we were able to pair a school with a NASA astronaut within 1 week of them receiving broadband for the very first time. It's a testament to how remote science communication delivery can empower communities who are historically underserved by traditional outreach efforts. We are immensely proud of the impact the program is having on students. It has been consistently proving that there's an appetite for space amongst young people.
Coming back to that continuity of engagement, I should mention that the space speakers we use often appear on roadshows later, so they're excellent companion programs. One of the benefits we found of running this in a digital environment is that our reach is greatly expanded. The face-to-face events that we've run in the past typically range in the low hundreds in terms of audience reach. Over the course of the pandemic, we found that these roadshows typically reach about 1,000 people at a time. They're actually more engaging in some ways due to the opportunity to enter breakout rooms where students can engage with the speakers directly and ask them questions in a way that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to in a face-to-face environment. We also reach so-called STEM code regions much more readily because we don't have to go to where they are in geographically isolated areas. The program can be streamed directly to them. Now, obviously, we perform evaluation on all the programs that we run during Space Week, and we tend to measure things such as perceptions towards STEM, whether people feel that space careers are a possibility for them, etc. And while all those metrics travel upwards, and it's nice to see those graphs, I think the direct feedback from teachers is perhaps more meaningful. And one of the most frequent themes we see is that people in remote areas feel that they're getting opportunities that they've never had before. And students are enjoying seeing that these scientists are real people and that these opportunities are not for elites that are beyond them, that anybody can have a career in these sectors. So what are some of our key takeaways? Well, first off, don't try to directly map your face-to-face experience into an online environment. It doesn't work. It's not that seamless. A better approach is to ask yourself what challenges your face-to-face program addresses and to approach it as a new problem, but with this new digital toolkit. Don't reinvent the wheel either. Identify where your strengths lie and let that lead your approach. Track participation and allocate your resources in response to data. Try to align programs to streamline your resource management and build momentum. But above all else, maintain a dialogue with your audience and adapt your program to their needs. I want to thank you for giving us the chance to share what we've learned with you today, and I hope you all stay safe. And if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much.